FM.
Hello. I forgot to mention this in the actual original meeting itself, but it's the Easter break, and this is the day after Easter Monday. And even though it is an Easter break, and I've got a bit of time off uni, I'm still working volunteering at Voice FM, and this is an interview with Sally Kidson, who's 18 and just got onto the UK Boccia programme for international competitions and the upcoming year of international competition leading up to Paris 2024 next year. And I hope you enjoy the interview. So, well, first of all, Sally, thank you for coming along to the interview. And we should start by saying that I know you briefly at Treloar. I don't think we've ever spoke.
No, not properly. Other than like brief conversations in the corridor and shenanigans going on that I not walked past, obviously, but went past. Yeah, there was nothing really ever,
No.
which is weird because we did cross over for quite a few. Well, I say quite a few, at least a year, maybe 2 or 3. It's weird.
Yeah, I was there for 2 years, and you were still at the school. And that's
Yeah,
when
yeah,
I
yeah.
was at the college.
That's
So,
probably why there isn't much.
That's
crossover.
probably why.
Well, there wasn't
But
at the time.
there you go. Yeah. So, and you're a Boccia player,
I am
basically.
indeed. I am.
Yeah, you're a ramper, and you now compete for Boccia UK.
Yes.
A big achievement. You must have been very pleased with that.
Yeah, no, I'm so happy. When I got the little email being like, congratulations, I was honestly absolutely buzzing. And you know, it's so nice, and the world class program, you know, with all the support we get from UK Sport and the National Lottery, it's just absolutely brilliant to be a part of, and it's a lot of fun being involved with everyone.
Yeah. So we'll we'll go way back. So your Treloar we've mentioned. Have you always been at the school? You didn't do any other schools before Treloar?
No, so I went to a mainstream primary school, just a local one, and then I came to Treloar when I was 11 as a secondary school.
Okay.
So yeah, so it was a change from mainstream to whatever you classify Treloar as, but not mainstream. But it was nice to be with other people with disabilities and other wheelchair users and all be in sort of the same boat.
Yeah, definitely. And so what made you come to Treloar in the first place then? Was it some sort of local authority or?
No, it's never the local authority, is it? No. So when we were looking at moving up to secondary school anyway, we just were looking at what we thought would be the most appropriate provision for my physical needs as well as my learning, and it was that Treloar would be the best, and I would do whatever I needed to do to keep my grades up along with it.
Let's just say, anyone who doesn't know what Treloar is on the radio or on YouTube, Treloar is a school and college for disabled people, we should say, people with disabilities, whatever they want to call themselves nowadays, and it's a boarding school as well. So I'm assuming you're boarding at Treloar as well.
Yeah. So I've always stayed residentially Monday to Friday, just because I live like an hour and a half away, and it's a pain in the neck to get there otherwise.
Yeah, definitely. And so during your time at Treloar, you've obviously gone up in the world of Boccia with, Treloar has always been a big pathway for Boccia players. David Smith, other athletes that have come through Treloar. And you're a magician as well.
Yes, I am. I do sometimes forget that one. Yeah, primarily outside of Boccia and in my academic studies, my interest is in music, and so I did a lot of participation with that, more than Boccia in the school, because I didn't start playing Boccia until 2019, but I was pushed into performing, as I'm sure you can relate to that one, Peter. Pushed into performing as soon as you get in the front door and it comes out that you like music. So yeah, it was I say pushed in. It wasn't much of a push. It was a light tap, and I went, oh, if I must. But yeah, it was really nice being a part of productions, and now I study A-level music and music technology and psychology, but that's not musical. But yeah, so it's really, music is my main passion, but Boccia is where my life is at the moment.
Yes, and with you do, I'm in a performing background, you did some stuff with the National Orchestra?
Yeah, the National Open Youth Orchestra. They're a brilliant organisation. They basically they work to ensure that people with any form of disability or even without, hence the open, are able to access music making in any form that is suitable for them, because obviously traditional instruments aren't the most accessible thing in the world, and even at the best of times, people who aren't suffering from a disability will struggle with them, because it's crazy to be able to play an instrument proficiently, and so they make sure that people are able to access instruments that they can reach their full potential with. So I play an instrument called the Linstrument, which people always go, yes, what instrument? But it's instrument with an L in front and an extra N, named after its creator, Roger Lynn. Very creative name. But it's like an accessible keyboard, so I can play that. And I'm quite lucky that I'm quite dexterous and able to play stuff like the piano and some other traditional instruments, albeit quite badly. But I'm not usually the one to admit I play them very badly. No, I'm very bad at piano. But I can play the instrument very proficiently, and I've played that with the National Open Youth Orchestra in their concert series last year. And sorry, so much has happened since then, I forgot. So in their debut concert series last year, that was really good. And I've also played with the Bournemouth Symphony Orchestra Resound Ensemble with that. So that was a really great experience as well, to be part of a professional ensemble. Especially, that was when I was doing my GCSEs, so I don't really know how I did it, but I managed.
Right. He did quite well to get to GCSEs done and the larger A levels and doing that as well. Treloar must have been a big help, to gain your studies and your magician and then doctor. They must have structured everything around your passions instead of your studies. But obviously, your studies are the most important, right? The tools. How did you balance the two of them, or how did Treloar support you?
I mean, luckily, luckily there was a pandemic. No, the GCSEs, I did them in the last year I say the last year as if there were many years. The first year was entirely just the government pulling numbers out of thin air for people for their grades. But for my year, it was teacher assessed grades. And so we were still doing exams, just not formal exams and not externally assessed. And then the evidence got submitted. And so when I got the email, I think in a normal exam year, I wouldn't have been able to cope. But when I got the email saying, do you want to do this? It was actually, I had just left my music GCSE. And I thought this timing couldn't have been better. And so I think the only exams that I actually had left to do were science and English, I think. I don't remember, it's all a bit of a blur. And so all of the other lessons, I said to my teachers, I was like, can I just go and practice? Because I only had 3 weeks turnaround, I think, from the email to I think I had a week before a recording, and then 3 weeks from the recording to learn more repertoire for the concert. And then there was a week of rehearsal in that 3 week, which is always very helpful. But yeah, I just spoke to my teachers and I said, look, this is a massive opportunity for me. Can I just take the time out of lessons that I'm not actually studying for an exam for, that we'd just be getting ahead work for A levels? Can I take that time to practice? Because I really need it. And, I'm practicing it. I guess I was also studying for my music theory at the time as well. Because I was looking at learning grade 6 content, because I'd finished my grade 5, and the jump from grade 5 to 6 is massive. It's so disproportionate. yeah, I was using all of my evening time to study for that, and then I still haven't taken it 2 years later. But yeah, I was using all my evening time for that, and so they couldn't even say no, you can do it in the evening. It was a case of there's simply not enough hours in the day, and so they were, and of course when I explained what it was, they were more than happy to accommodate. But yeah, they were very accommodating once the exams were over, and I think everyone else's last exam was on the concert day, and so I was not there. I'd already done it, and I was like so happy for you guys, so happy. And I'm just sat there slaving away. I think slaving away is a bit of a stretch, practicing and rehearsing. But yeah, it was a crazy time, and it didn't help. I also I say broke my leg, but that's a little bit dramatic. I had a fracture in my leg at the time as well because of something that had gone weird, and so I was not in the most alive state of mind. So yeah, it was a funny one, that 6 months, but we got through it, and here we are.
Yeah. And so did they you say competition was your main thing before boccia came along. Did you do any other sports before boccia? I know you might have done hockey at one point, but
I don't think I ever did hockey more than messing around at lunchtime, because I was not very good at it. I think my extent of hockey was dribbling and maybe hitting the ball in one direction at one point, but not very hard. I could never really compete with anyone. But yeah, I haven't played hockey in a long old time actually. But yeah, I never properly played that. I did play table cricket very briefly in the first year. Well, I played it throughout the years because that's one of the sports that's on rotation in PE lessons. But I played it. I was on the team. I was very shocked. But we never really. I think we did one competition, and I think we medalled, but only got like a certificate. Only we got a certificate, and then nothing really came of it. I don't really remember. That was a long old time ago. And then there was also polybat, which for those of you who don't know, it's like table tennis, but with no net, and there's like sideboards. Yeah. And so it's quite fun, but it gets very crazy. And especially when you have limited core strength and you're trying to move from side to side, and I've got tiny arms as well. And so I was there throwing myself across this table. And for my GCSE PE, we had to do 2 sports. And I did boccia as the primary one, as the primary one, and was actually very bad. It was awful. And then I did polybat for the secondary one because there was just no point doing anything else. But yeah, both of my sports performances were not the best considering now. But yeah.
Yeah, because I remember going past the corridor at some point, and it'll be the school's lunch period, and I'll see you in the hall with Joe and the others, and you'll just do hockey. So I would always be the one hitting the ball and just shouting, "Yeah!"
Yeah,
And all that sort of
I would just be the one sort of sat there having just vibing,
Yeah, look, I think everyone's always just sitting there anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, there you go. And then I remember doing probably that, but I remember table cricket was one of Treloar's best skill set because I know Kim Smith. You would go off to do competitions and that.
Yeah. No, we
Yeah.
love Kim. She's still doing really well. I see her all the time. She works a lot she works with the PE classes, but with Sophie and Harrison now. So I see them a lot of the time. I did last year at competitions. So yeah, and in corridors obviously. But boccia wise, when they're training, I see them in the hall or in yeah.
Yeah. And so you said you started boccia in 2019.
Yeah, so I first attended a Heathcote Cup in 2019 in March.
Oh,
And it was very weird actually. I went along I went along just as a sort of a bunch of us are going. You're a BC3, there's no doubt about it. Let's just give you some competition experience. I went along not even thinking I'd get a medal, just going for a bit of fun, and then I won. And it was all a bit confusing because nobody was expecting it. They were expecting a lot of other people to win. I was not on that list. And I won somehow. So yeah, that was the last time I won a gold medal as well. So that's fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I won the Heathcote qualifiers, then went to the Heathcote final. And if I wasn't expecting to medal in the qualifier, I definitely wasn't expecting to get to the final. And I pitched up and ended up coming third. And so therefore ending up at the BE Cup final, because that's how the competition pathway worked then. And I went to the BE Cup final and did get absolutely thrashed. Rightfully so. I would have been a bit worried if I didn't. But yeah, that was 2019. And then I went to, because I wasn't allowed to go to, well, wasn't allowed. You can't go to the Heathcote qualifiers after you've been promoted to BE Cup after that.
Oh, yeah, stay in BE Cup.
Yeah. So I went to a BE Cup qualifier the next February or March in Hatfield, and that was my first, and I think I came 7th or 8th or something, which wasn't, it was okay for, like, I played okay, but it was just before the pandemic, and it was my 4th competition ever, so I wasn't really too fussed about performance. It was more just get her on a court and see what she's like, and don't miss the cool room, because I did that at the BE Cup final and it was not ideal, and I've never made that mistake since. But yeah, so I did the qualifier, and then the pandemic happened and I didn't play for absolutely ages, and then I started up again at some point. I want to say it was like, it wasn't September 2020 because I was doing my GCSEs. It was probably about this time in 2021. And I started doing coaching with Lauren, my amazing coach, and I had my mum as my ramp assistant. My mum started as my ramp assistant in Hatfield, and now look at her, she's a pro. She was a pro back then, but she's even more now. But yeah, I started proper coaching with Lauren, and yeah, and then in the summer I went to the Boccia UK back to training sessions, or whatever they were called, I can't remember. There was one in Angmering, so back to Boccia, thank you. Glad one of us remembers. Yeah, so I went along to that.
Yeah, I've got it all written down. So.
Oh wow, someone's prepared. But yeah, so I went along to one of those and met some of the coaching team, and so that was really nice. It was a boiling hot day, that's the only thing I remember about it. And then yeah, so I was playing with just balls that I had from Treloar, so that I was just a set of handy lives, which is not ideal for a BC3. But the point was I knew how to play the game and I could actually get balls on sometimes, which is always a bonus. But yeah, so then that September, I think, I went to a Boccia England competition again. It was one of the back to Boccia things in Sheffield, and I had to withdraw because I was having some issues, but I did play for basically one of the days. But yeah, it was good, and I had I'd been given a ramp from UK, so that was really nice, and I had a set of balls that were working for me that were hand-me-downs, much appreciated hand-me-downs, but yeah, they were very well loved. But that's good for BC3 because it means they're very soft. Yeah, so I was playing with a proper set with a ramp that was actually pretty good, and yeah, and so I went along and played my games. I don't remember what any of the results were, but I was missing an extension as well, which wasn't ideal. I didn't have the middle extension, and so I couldn't play knockoffs or knock-ons at full power. And I remember one of the ends, someone played at like 8 meters, and I was like, great, fantastic, this is just what I needed. None of my balls are going to reach. yeah, it was good to actually play against the same field I played at in Hatfield and have a bit of a chance. And know that I am at that level. But yeah, so that was September 2021. And this is where it all goes a bit crazy in my head. So then
It does. It does.
yeah, then I got invited to some challenges. And I went
Yeah,
to
Boccia
one.
UK challenges.
Yeah. Sorry, I should clarify. I got invited to some UK challenges. So I went to the one in Gloucester in the summer of 2022. But before that, this is where the chronological order goes out the window. Before that, I got invited to a training camp in Birmingham in the February, and I, in all my amazingness, got COVID, so couldn't go. And I was devastated because I was going to go and meet everyone. I was going to play some boccia. I was going to learn some things. Going to play pairs for the first time ever. Just have a bit of fun and play some boccia. More importantly, but yeah. And so got COVID for that, and then got invited to another one in the May. Yes, it was in May. So I went along to that. Met everyone, and yeah, played a lot of pairs. It was just almost entirely a day of pairs, but it was a really good learning experience because I'd never played pairs. I'd only played singles up to this point. So yeah, it was really nice to meet everyone, and it was just a good productive day. And then went back home. Went back home. Went to college, and then there was the Challenger in Gloucester, and then there was a camp after that I was invited to stay for, and I stayed for I think one of the days because I had college and I really needed to stay at college at the time because we had upcoming mocks and I was like I can't take this risk. So yeah, that was good. And then I believe that was it until Poland. So yeah,
Yes, it was. It was.
that's
And yeah. And so just back a little bit there. So you're still quite young, you're only 18. So you've got a very quick trajectory up to where you are now, you know, in terms of age and everything. But actually, literally, first of all, before I mentioned this at the very beginning, do you mind explaining your disability? I
yeah,
forgot to add that in.
that's fine. That's fine. So I have spinal muscular atrophy type 2, which is sort of in the muscular dystrophy family. And it basically means my muscles slowly degenerate over time. Quite similarly to Duchenne, if you're familiar with that, but Duchenne doesn't affect females unless there's a very specific set of conditions. But yeah, so my muscles slowly degenerate over time, and so I'm a wheelchair user full time. I can't weight bear. I really struggle to lift a lot of things that are even remotely heavy. But yeah, that's basically my condition in a nutshell.
Yes. And so being a busy obviously means I'm in the ramp.
Mm-hmm.
So you get those sort of like stick things to move the ball down on the ramp and everything. And you know, just to make it clear for people who don't know what boccia is, when you talk about extensions, you're talking about those sort of glass panels that you put on the ramp to
Yeah,
make it. Yes.
yeah. So the ramp consists of the main I guess canal. I don't really know how you, but basically, if you picture in your head, when you go bowling, you play with the ramp sometimes. I mean, I do because I definitely can't throw a bowling ball if I can't throw a bocce ball. If you imagine that, but a little bit more sophisticated, the premise is the same. So that's the main canal of the ramp, and you aim that, you do whatever you like. Um, and then in addition to that, you also have extensions, and extensions vary from person to person. But in the UK, generally we have a middle extension, which is shorter, about 30-40 centimeters, and then a long extension, which is probably more like 60 centimeters. And generally what people do is they have the middle extension, they only put the middle extension on if they're having both on. I don't know why that would help in your mental picture, but now you know. And when we're playing, we have like some people use a head pointer, which is like a helmet with a stick attached. They're, again, a lot more sophisticated than that. Sometimes they're not, sometimes they are just like that, but they release it with the head is the point. Some people use a mouth pointer, so they have a device that they stick in their mouth and they can release it like that. And some people, I use a hand pointer, and mine isn't even anything fancy. It's just I got it off Amazon, and it was just like lecturers point with a stick. It was literally one of those. It was a pack of 3 and it was like a $5, and I was like, this will do me nicely. And it extends very long, which is good because again, I have very short arms. But yeah, it was a good one. Goodbye. And it's lasted me. Yeah, I think I actually bought it for music because there was a period of time when I was just awful at rhythm, and so my teacher would just like, when I was messing up, he would just like point at the rhythm and be like, "This is what you should be playing when," and I was like, "Right, okay." And I bought him. I was going to buy him a stick so he didn't have to lean across me when he did it, not across me, but like across a table. And it was a pack of 3, and I was like, "This will do me nicely for boccia and for music. This is amazing." Yeah, so you can get specially made stuff, but I have cheap and cheerful. Yeah, so that's basically the basics of being a BC3.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. And so you were put to England, and then how did you get sort of noticed by Boccia UK from Boccia England?
I mean, I didn't actually do a lot with England other than I had access to one-to-one coaching with Lauren. And they invited me to competitions, but because of the way the pathway system worked, it was based on like how long you'd been in the system. And also, I wasn't very good. I will admit that. I'm sure a lot of people would be willing to admit that. I wasn't very good when UK started noticing me, and so everyone, well, I was probably, a little bit shocked. I was very shocked, and they recognised my potential and what I could be with a bit more. And I'm really grateful for Lauren for pushing it because she does she did and still does a lot with UK, and so was able to say, actually, I've got this BC3 and I think she could be something. And lo and behold, she was right, as she normally is. As I have learned many, many, many times. Yeah, so that's basically how it happened, and I just got invited to training camps, and then training camps became competition, became more training camps, became the world-class program. So yeah, it's
Yeah, and so how did you get Lauren? Because I know you had Kidson for Treloar as your sort of like school coach or whatever you call it. How did you get Lauren involved?
through England. So I was invited to the, well, I don't know if invited is the word, but I went to the UK. No, sorry, let me backtrack. It was back in the academy system. I remember now.
Yes, 2019. Yes.
Yeah, back in the day.
Back in the day.
So old. And other words that are never going to come out of my mouth. Yeah. So I went to the Gloucester Gladiators Academy. And Lauren was one of the coaches there. I don't remember a lot of that. I think I only went to like 3 sessions because I either wasn't available, was ill, didn't have a ramp assistant, or whatever. Like there was always a reason. But yeah, there's always an excuse. But yeah, Lauren was one of the coaches there, and she noticed me there. But then the pandemic happened. But yeah, and then there was. Yeah, then when everything started ramping up again, life-wise, the England were sort of dishing out performance coaching to England athletes and people who might benefit from it, and I'm sure there was a lot more going on behind the scenes than I know about. But yeah, I was given Lauren as my person, and yeah.
And you mentioned ramp assistance. So when you first started, I'm assuming you had just a random volunteer from Treloar doing it, and then your mum came in.
So like I say, I only attended a few competitions, and they're all in very close time frame, because I think the Heathcote qualifier I went to was the last of the season. And then it was the finals like a month later, and then it was the B Cup finals like a month later as well. And so I had someone from Treloar called Vicky. She was my ramp assistant for the Heathcote Cup qualifier, and then, like I said, nobody expected me to do well out of that.
No.
I think, like I say, I think I was the most surprised. I was like, oh, this is crazy. And yeah, and so she then ramp assisted for me in the Heathcote finals because she was available, and then did the B Cup finals because she was available, and then my mum took over when I started actually doing a lot more. So yeah.
Yeah. And she's been there ever since.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and so yeah, you mentioned your entire journey up until Poland. So let's talk a bit about that now. Going
Yeah.
back into sort of last year and all. So you made your Boccia UK debut in Poland, 17 years old, and during that time, well, first of all, I'll ask you, how was it for you? You know,
Yeah.
first international game.
I mean, it was a crazy experience. In every meaning of the word. No. So I had also not flown in living memory. I had flown, but I was like a tiny baby. And I'm still tiny, but I'm no longer a baby. But yeah, so they said, we'd like to take you to Poland, and I went, oh, that's wonderful. And then I thought, I'm gonna have to get on a plane, aren't I? And I am one of those people that I'm scared of everything. I will literally, if there's something that could happen, my brain is like, it's going to happen. I'll get in a lift and I'll be like, but what happens if the lift falls? But yeah, so that was the first barrier. And then once we arrived, I was not first. I was like, right, we've done the hard part. But yeah, it was a really good learning experience, because I'd watched international games before as preparation, sort of over dinner. I'm just like, it sounds like over a family dinner. When I'm sat eating my dinner at Treloar's, I'll just put a YouTube video on, and then the YouTube videos became Boccia.
Yeah, of course.
And yeah, and so I'd watched international games, and I thought, there's no way I can compete with this. And then yeah, and then so we got to Poland. We had the training days, and in the training days I was a little bit like, whoa, what's going to happen? And then the draw came out on the Tuesday night, and lo and behold, I'd got the top seed in my pool. And I was like, right, okay, that's actually really good, because it means I get to have a crack at someone who's actually a good player. And obviously everyone there is a good player, but like top 10 in the world, she was number 3 at the time, a good player. And I went into this match thinking, I thought something a lot stronger than what I'm about to say, but I was thinking, I'm about to get thrashed. It's just going to be a bit of fun. We're going to play some boccia, play some balls, and then the afternoon, because I had 2 matches in one day, it's like the afternoon match is going to be the important one. We're just going to have a bit of fun. And I lost 3 in the first end. The final score was 4-3 to her. But I lost 3 in the first end, because I was holding on for dear life. I was like, I have no idea what to expect. And she also had quite a funny jack position, and I couldn't quite get it. But I recovered. But then in the second end, I started scoring points, and I thought, hang on a second, I've just got the better of number 3 in the world in an end. I can do this. And so I then proceeded to do it. And I only lost 1 in her second end, the third end. And then I won the fourth end, and also had a penalty ball, but I can't remember why, which I missed by a centimetre, which is physically painful. But yeah, it was. The thing is, as a 3, you never know, because you can just pace it what it says on the page, and if your balls are rolling slow, you overpace it, and it still goes short. But yeah, it was a really interesting learning experience, and I obviously would have been buzzing if I'd won. But I think it was just really nice to play the game and know that I can hold my own and not get battered.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, so that was my first game, and then the second game, so I had to win to get out of the pool, and so I did win, 6-1, I think, yes, and yeah, it was a really really fun game, and it's really interesting actually playing people from other countries and across the world because they play so differently, and at that point I played quite a few competitions domestically. I say quite a few. I think that was like my 7th ever competition. So not really loads, but I played against like more against the England field than anyone else.
Yeah.
And they all play the same principles. We all have a similar sort of set, and so it was really interesting seeing other people and going, hang on a second, this is actually a really hard set. Like I don't know what's going to happen. Or this ball's really soft, but everything else is like medium. Like she's got no rocks. What am I going to do? And yeah, it's really interesting and it makes for quite fun playing as well. But yeah, so I won that match 6-1, and then first international win, 50% success rate internationally. We take those. And then on the next day, the Thursday, I had to play a playoff because of, I think there was just like 3 pools, and then the winners of winners of pool A and B. So I was in Pool A. If I'd won Pool A, I would have got straight to semis, but I came second, so I played the winner of Pool C, who I also played in Zagreb. And the result was just a little different. But yeah, so I won 10-0 in Poland. And yeah, it was actually a really good match. The score doesn't reflect. It was quite tight, but I just was on a roll, and
Quite literally.
yeah,
Quite literally. Well.
I was possessed during that match by the god of Boccia. But yeah, I'd say that I wasn't amazing, but considering how I had played up until then, it was probably one of the best matches I'd played. But yeah, so that was Thursday, and then the Friday, I did crumble a little bit. I was in the semi and lost 4-1 or 4-2, one of those. But lost, and my opponent had 4 and I had less than 4. And yeah, so that was a bit of a blow because I'd been on such a roll, and then I just wasn't very good in my medal match. So yeah, but overall it was a really nice experience and really good for learning. So yeah.
Yeah, and then you lost against a female number 3 in the world, which Boccia UK highlighted, and it's well documented on social media that has happened. And then earlier this year, in February, you got picked to go to the world class program.
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, good times.
Yeah, and I mean, you must have been expecting that, after your first international last year, you must have been expecting that sort of news to come your way.
I mean, you can never really expect anything. Obviously, yeah, I was hoping to join the squad in a more concrete sort of position. So yeah, that was really good news to hear. And I would have probably continued training with them at the very least. But yeah, it was really nice to be given recognition like that and being put on the program, and going to camps and getting a bit more concrete. You will be doing more internationally. It was really nice to hear that it wasn't a one-off. So yeah, and then Zagreb feels like ages ago, but it was literally like 2 weeks ago. It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you, after the news of that, you went on to Croatia, and during that time, you again well documented on social media that you beat world champion
I did.
along the way.
I did do that 2 weeks ago today, almost exactly to the minute. I beat the world champion.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was absolutely crazy. You know, I had said to all of my friends, you know, as a joke, you know, oh my, like, I'm going to go and I'm going to beat the world champion. As soon as the list of, you know, people who were going came out, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna beat her. Like it, like haha, very funny. Obviously, you're not going to beat the world champion. She's world champion for a reason. And then the pools came out, and I thought, right, so I do actually have her in my pool. I am going to play her.
Yes.
And yeah, and then so I played the first match, and you know, I said to everyone, I was like, oh, you know, I'm happy I won anyway, but I'm happy I won because it means I don't go into a must win against the world champion, because realistically that's not going to happen. And then it did happen, and it was very crazy. And yeah, the game was really interesting actually, and it was good because I usually, if I'm gonna have a moment, it's gonna be in the last couple of ends. And so, well, I say that in the weeks preceding, it had become apparent that if I was going to crumble at any point, it was going to be towards the end, because you either get carried away or you like resign yourself to the fact you've lost. And again, in the first end, I lost 3, and you know, as a BC3, unless it was a really weird end, that usually means you're probably not going to win the game. Or at least I see it as that, because you know, you sort of expect your opponent to get 1 on their end, maybe 2, but 3 is a lot. And you know, I was having a bit of a moment, and I was like, come on, get it together. And then, you know, I scored 1 on my end, and I was like, right, you know, you can play better than her, you know, let's do it. And then I scored 1 on her end, and I was like, it's 3-2. You're going into the final end. You could win this. Like, go for it. And then scored 1, and it went to tiebreak. Which I hate tiebreaks. I think everyone hates tiebreaks. And you know, it's fine when you win, but the thing is, if you lose the tiebreak, you've then wasted 20 minutes of your time. Like, you might as well have just lost in normal time. And yeah, and obviously I'm always grateful for an extra end because it's more competition experience and more playing. But if I had have lost, I would have been, I don't think fuming's the word, but it would have been really annoying because it was the end of the day as well. But yeah, so played the tiebreak, had 3 balls in hand going into the last. Well, she was played out, and I had 3 balls left, and yeah, I did a bit of hitting of the right balls, and I won. It was very terrifying actually, because I went up, because obviously the first thing you do when you've got balls in hand and tiebreakers, go up and say, what's the score, ref? And the referee said, what's the score? Oh no, the referee didn't say that. I said that. And she said, I don't know. And I said, oh, that's great. And she didn't have the calipers to measure that short of a distance. Which was quite funny. And you know, in hindsight, you know, I could have got the head referee, they could have paused the timer. But I was like, this is gonna be on my time, I can't do it. But yeah, so I played the balls, but it could have been, I could have not needed to. But yeah, it was really interesting. And then the next day, played my final pool match, ended up topping the pool, which was good, and I was very happy with that on my second international. And you know, at that point, I'd already equaled the amount of ranking points that I got from Poland. So I was already pretty happy that it was a worthwhile trip. And then, yeah, played the quarterfinal. I'd never played a quarterfinal before, so like I'd played a playoff that was basically equivalent to, but I'd never played a quarter before, so that was fun. Doesn't really change anything, but yeah, it was really nice. It was a really fun game actually. There was a lot of like weird scenarios that came up, and then once again had a bit of a moment in the semi, playing against the person who I beat 10-0 in Poland. I lost 9-1, which is not really a scoreline you want to see, unless you're the 9. But yeah, she played very well and I played very badly. And you know, you play badly, you get bad results. It's how it works. And you know, I was actually very happy with the fact that I managed to get myself back for the afternoon. And you know, I did lose the game 3-2 for bronze, but you know, I'm happy with it. Like if I were to look at that game, I'd go, actually, you know what? Compare that to earlier in the day. That was probably one of the best games I played in the whole tournament. So yeah, I was really quite chuffed with that. And And you always know that you've done something right when you leave the court, even though you've lost, with a smile on your face. And it also really helped that Will Arnott had won against Adam, who knocked him out of the World Championships, got his revenge behind me. So I was very chuffed with that. It was a very good day for Wills, actually. Will Hipwell also got his first international singles medal. And obviously David and Claire got their golds and Steph got his bronze. So yeah, it was a very good day.
Yeah, it was a glow for the team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we went on to the pairs, which was a very new experience for me. I'd never played pairs internationally before. And I haven't even played pairs for a year now. So yeah, it was that was very much a learning curve. And yeah, so we played the first game against Italy, and I admittedly was very, very bad that game, but we won. And then I said as like, well, no, it wasn't because of me that we won, But yeah, I came off court and I was laughing, and I said to Paddy, who was the captain and the other player in the pair, I said to him, I was like, mate, I'm sorry, I hope your back's okay after absolutely carrying me for that game. And I played some shots that were okay, but some of the balls they weren't short, or just And then that afternoon we played Portugal. So that was good. That was another 3-3 tiebreak, but we unfortunately lost. However, because we lost, we played Germany in the playoff, which it was nice because they're another European team, and so it's good prep for the Europeans. We know what we're looking at. But yeah, so we played Germany in the playoff, won that. That was an early start that day. I said to everyone, I was like, I think it should be a crime to have BC3 matches before. I said before 10, and then they moved it to 10, so I was like, I can't actually complain too much now. But yeah, so then we played Germany, and then played. Sorry for the background noise. Played Brazil. Brazil was a tight loss, but a loss nonetheless. And then played France. Yay! Unfortunately, once again, the curse of Sally coming forth did happen. But yeah, the thing about the game with France is you never expect anyone to throw the jack up at 9.5 meters.
No, not that far back
No.
anyway.
It was ridiculous, and we knew it was coming, and yeah, still just couldn't. But yeah, we live and we learn, and yeah, that was a grab in a nutshell.
Yeah, and we should I was wanted to say that we should mention UK Sport and National Lottery in the interview at some point.
UK Sport and National Lottery. But yeah, obviously, ever so grateful that UK Sport and National Lottery support Boccia UK and the World Class Programme. So
yeah. And yeah, so after that, you again really close at the moment. So obviously you've got Paris next year. Now, in about a year's time, in about 2 or 3 months' time, next year, and so you've joined the squad, the Boccia UK squad, and there's 4 others. So you've got Will Arnott, you've got Robin, who is another one that's been put on the World Class Programme. You and Robin before, and then you've got Jamie, McLaren, and Patrick Wilson. That's Wilson as well. So there's quite a healthy squad of BC5s there.
BC3s.
BC3s, sorry.
I'd be very impressed if we were BC5s.
No, BC3s, sorry. So yeah, I mean, what are you thinking your chances are in the short groups and?
I don't know. I think what's important is that we qualify the pair, and we worry about ourselves later. The thing is with qualification is, even if we qualify the pair, it's not up to us as athletes who's going, other than by doing our best. yeah, we just need to work hard in what we are gonna, like, when we are playing in the pair, that we are playing our best. And if that leads to like, obviously, not obviously, but if we win the Europeans, we qualify the pair, or come second to France, because they automatically qualify because they're the hosts. But if let's say we win the Europeans, if we win the Europeans, we automatically qualify. But even if you're playing in that pair, there's no guarantee that you are the person who's going. But yeah, I think, like I say, what's important is that we are just going to get some slots in there, and then we'll worry about who actually is going later.
Yeah. That's a very important thing you said there. That's very. Yeah, a lot of people just going, oh, I don't know, So that's always an issue that's happened, but no, you're doing very well, moment. And yeah. So the last time we played, so there's internationals. There's individuals, and then there's pairs. And you were paired up with Patrick last time, aren't you?
Yeah.
Was it the one you just mentioned? Yeah. And so, with that in mind, and everything else that we spoke about, what's the future for you looking like? I mean, obviously, your musician career will probably take a step back from now. Is that something you might want to revisit in the future?
I mean, I am just focused on finishing my education at A level, and
yeah, of course.
And yeah, and then I want to go on to university and study music, and I'm quite happy that I can balance that, especially given the nature of music as a subject. You can you can do a lot independently anywhere. You don't have to do it in university. Practice isn't something that you have to sit in a classroom doing, or a lecture hall. But yeah, I'm quite happy that I'm able to balance both, and I think it's good that I'm able to have two such varying interests and things going on. And yeah, obviously I'm grateful to be doing both at quite a high level as well. But yeah, it's yeah.
Yeah. And so what sort of university are you looking to go to?
One that's good for music. Yeah, I've got a lot on the list. Yeah, there's obviously conservatoires as well. But I think I want to go to university, but I don't know.
You've got a bit of time to figure that out.
Not a lot of time, but moderate amount of time.
Oh no, you've got till the summer.
Yeah.
But there you go. Yeah, and yeah, so and Treloar's have been a massive influence on you getting on doing Boccia. Because I remember you were doing Boccia when I was there, and you were doing it quite casually at the time, weren't you? You weren't thinking at the sort of time when I was there from 2016 to 2018. I was there for 2 years. But since I left, it started a bit more serious, and then obviously you went on to your competitions in 2019. So having Treloar's as some sort of springboard for you for Boccia, and of course, plenty of Boccia people in the past went to Treloar's, so that must have been a really, really big helpful step towards your future career.
Yeah, Treloar's have obviously been a great help, and their support is always. I'm always so grateful for every amount of support I can get, whether that's from Treloar's or from my mum, who selflessly gives her time to be my ramp assistant, or for Lauren, who tolerates me and who coaches me. I'm always grateful for it.
Yeah, definitely, and it's all thanks to mum as well, isn't it, for the ramp assistant. So how did she end up being the ramp assistant after Treloar's assistance?
She offered, and I said yes.
Right. And I'm assuming you have got a very tight support group, because I know children and parents don't always get on together very well sometimes.
No, we work together as a unit, and I think that's what's important, is setting aside anything and just just getting on with what you need to get on with.
Yeah. Oh, I'm the one talking. Let me do this. Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's everything. Is there anything else that you might want to? I mean, I think we covered everything.
Yeah.
But
No, I'm happy that we've covered everything.
Yeah, good. Well, thank you very much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you so much. Have a lovely rest of your day.
Voice. Let's go. Voice FM.